Hello again and welcome to the next part of Module 2. As I have mentioned in a previous video, a lesson plan must have at least 3 key parts, which are objectives, activities, and assessment. In this video, I am going to talk about the steps you can follow to prepare for a lesson plan. There are 6 suggested steps that you can follow to prepare for a lesson. They are: Step 1. Outlining learning objectives. Step 2. Developing the introduction. Step 3. Planning the specific learning activities. Step 4. Planning to check for understanding. Step 5. Developing a conclusion and a preview. Step 6. Creating a realistic timeline. In the first step, outlining learning objectives, you need to firstly determine the objective of the lesson in terms of skill and knowledge. Now, there are 4 questions that may help you to do this. The first question is, what is the topic of the lesson? Second, what do I want students to learn? Next, what do I want them to understand and be able to do at the end of the class? And the final question, what do I want them to take away from this particular lesson? After deciding on the objectives, you need to order them from the most important one to the least important one, or vice versa. In the second step, you need to think about how to start or introduce your lesson to your students. In this step, you might start with a question or activity to get to know students' knowledge of the subject. For example, you can take a simple poll. How many of you have heard of X? Raise your hand if you have. After that, you should develop a creative introduction to the topic to stimulate interest and encourage thinking. You can use a variety of approaches to engage students based on their learning preferences, such as singing a song or telling a story. In the third step, you need to plan specific activities as well as estimate how much time you would spend on each of them. You also may need to prepare a list of different ways to present the material because your students may have different learning styles. For example, when you teach the word tree, some students may prefer to see pictures of trees, some may like listening to a song about trees, and others may even want to go out of the classroom to touch some trees. These different ways would help to cater for students' ability and preferences. In step 4, you need to check for students' understanding. How will you know that students are learning? You can do this by thinking of the specific questions to check students' understanding. A useful tip here is that you shouldn't ask general questions like, are you clear or do you understand? Because students may tend to answer yes and refuse to recall your instructions. Instead, you may ask the students to repeat the instructions step by step, or you can prepare a list of specific yes-no questions such as, are you going to work with one friend? Or are you going to have 5 minutes? By answering these specific questions, your students have another chance to revise the instructions of the activity, and you can easily monitor their understanding. Also, you may need to predict the answers from the students or prepare for the questions they may ask you in return. In step 5, you need to prepare the way to summarize the lesson from stating it by yourself, asking the student to summarize orally, or asking them to do a written summary. You may also want to preview the next lesson and even show the connection between this lesson and the next. This summary can be in the form of a fun activity like a song to wrap up the main content of the lesson, or a story based on the lesson content. Children are mostly engaged more in learning when they know they are able to achieve and bring something back home after a lesson, like a song or a story. In the final step, you need to create a realistic timeline for your lesson. Also, you should be flexible by thinking about the unexpected problems related to time management. For example, what would you do if you have too much extra time? Or if you cannot cover all of the activities because of the time constraints? Preparing for these anticipated problems may save you from worry and boost your confidence as well as the ability to improvise. So, I hope that after learning this module, you would understand basic information about lesson planning regarding the roles, the components, and the steps of planning a lesson. Thank you for joining this module, and goodbye.